Hey there, it's Scott, StarterTherapyPractice.com. I'm at one of my clinics today and I've got my handy dandy clipboard. But I want to talk about one of the first things that you need to get right or that you need to set up in order to start a private practice or take your practice to the next level. All right, let's talk about it. All right, here's the basic facts. You're smart enough to start a private practice. You're smart enough to take your current practice to the next level. You graduated and endured one of the most rigorous schools and programs in the world, basically. You're a therapist. You're smart enough to do this. All right, the next thing is that there's plenty of information out there about how to start a business, how to start a private practice. There's plenty of consultants, similar to myself, who are trying to help you start a private practice. So it's not information, it's not you not being smart enough. What is it? The problem is your limiting belief system. You thinking either you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you can't do this, you can't do that, I'm too short, I'm too fat, whatever it is. Your limiting belief system is holding you back. Now here's the deal, I'm guilty of it too. We all have these little voices in our head telling us things that are just not true. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not good looking enough. Whatever it is, those are limiting beliefs. So I'm a consumer of books. I like audiobooks. I like a lot of audiobooks. I like podcasts. And the theme here recently on things that I've been listening to, reading, is this limiting belief idea or system that we're all plagued with. And so eventually it's like God saying, hello, McFly. By the way, if you get the McFly joke, leave a comment down below. But it's like, hey, I'm trying to tell you something. I'm trying to teach you something here. And so I try to self-reflect and say, what's the lesson in what's happening in my life right now? So the lesson right now is limiting belief. That's what's holding us all back. So I have this book, one of the things that I'm consuming right now, and you're seeing it backwards, but it's Your Best Year Ever by Michael Hyatt. He's got a nice podcast too. But he's explaining scarcity thinkers and abundance thinkers. So we all know people like this. We fall somewhere in this category. That we either come from the aspect of scarcity, or we come from the place of abundance. Now, I believe that God creates abundance. I mean, have you ever seen acorns fall off of a tree? They're like this thick in my yard right now. That's abundance. There's too many acorns. The squirrels can't eat them. So that shows us, it demonstrates that the natural law is abundance. There's plenty out there. But in this book, he's explaining how scarcity thinkers think. So scarcity thinkers are entitled and fearful. They believe there will never be enough. They're stingy with their knowledge, with their contacts, and their compassion. They assume they are the way they are. They default to suspicion and aloofness. Do you know people like this? They resent competition, believing it makes the pie smaller and them weaker. They're pessimistic about the future, believing that tough times are ahead. They see challenges as obstacles. The obstacle is the way. They think small and avoid risks. All right, are you guilty of any of those scarcity thoughts? What about abundance thinkers? How do they think? So they're thankful and confident. They believe there's always more where that came from. They're happy to share their knowledge, their contacts, and their compassion with others. They assume that they can always learn, they can always grow, and they can always develop themselves. They default to trust and openness. They welcome competition, believing that it makes the pie bigger and makes them better. That's essentially what capitalism is. They're optimistic about the future. They believe the best is yet to come. They see challenges as opportunities. Like I said, the challenge is the way. The opportunity is in the challenge. They think big and they embrace risk. Now, people often tell me that they never see me flustered. They always see me as upbeat. There's a reason for that. So growing up, grew up poor. We didn't have much. I grew up in a broken family. There was no abuse going on, maybe a little verbal abuse. I remember getting smacked in the back of the head, but we didn't have much. And so what I have now, I'm truly thankful for. I wake up every morning and think, thank you, God, for placing me here, giving me these abilities, blessing me with a great education, great friends, great family. But the point is to be thankful for everything that's in your life, to come from that mindset of abundance and not scarcity. I tried to be very pragmatic growing up and even right now to notice what the successful people were doing, or at least people who I perceived as, successful, and then contrast that with the people who were not successful. They had really terrible lives, and I wanted to see what was going on there. And so I tried to make the conscious decision of, here's how I want my life to be, because here's how these people are who are very happy. So those are the decisions that I tried to make to set myself up for success now. And I continue to try to do that. So I'm curious, are you coming from the mindset of abundance or scarcity? Here's another thought. Your limiting belief system, and we all have it, so don't say, I don't have a limited belief system. Your limited belief system prevents you from starting. It prevents you from starting that next big project, maybe from starting a private practice, because you're afraid. That's ultimately it. You have to crush fear. Now, how do you crush fear? I got some thoughts for you. As I mentioned, we all have these little voices in our head telling us a lot of times negative stuff. You're not good enough. You're not tall enough. You don't have enough hair, which obviously I don't, but that's not the belief system that I want. So we have to replace those negative voices in our head with the positive ones. You just have to overwhelm your brain with positivity. It's very pragmatic in that way. The brain gets very good at what it does a lot of. So you need to tell your brain and feed your brain these positive sayings because they're true. So here's a very practical way to do that. Couple that positive saying and focus on what you really lack. What your brain continues to default as far as what it's telling you negative-wise, or what you really think you're not good at or not capable of. Take that and turn it around, flip it, and come up with just a short little phrase of, hey, I'm a good public speaker. And then say that, but couple it with a physical activity. Couple it with brushing your teeth. As you're brushing your teeth, you got a couple minutes. Feed your brain the positive thoughts. When you get in your car and you buckle your seatbelt, say another positive phrase. Now here's a tip to limit those positive phrases, maybe 3, 4. You don't want to have so many that you just forget them all. Pick 2, 3, 4 physical activities that you do every day, hopefully multiple times a day, and then say, here's what I'm going to tell myself when I do this physical activity. Here's the next big thing you absolutely must do. You must eliminate negativity. Negative people, negative surroundings, negative occurrences, and some of that could be, probably a big portion of that is social media, but you're saying, Scott, people are posting nice pictures on Instagram, on Pinterest. Guess what? Social media is set up to make you feel bad, basically. Everybody is presenting their best self. I told my wife I would love to create a social media channel where you can only post your worst self, when you mess up, because that would actually make you feel good to see that person over there messing up and think, oh, I didn't even think they made mistakes. Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes every day, but I learn a lot from those mistakes. But on social media, everybody's posting their best self. And so you compare yourself, whether consciously or subconsciously, you're comparing yourself to those people on social media. You need to severely limit your social media use. That's why you don't see me on there a lot. I like to go on there and post videos like this and be helpful, but you have to eliminate negativity. If you're around negative people, eliminate them, or at least reduce the time that you have to be around them. The news. Don't read the news. The news, they make their living by posting terrible things that happen in the world. Eliminate news, eliminate talk radio, and I'll tell you what to replace it with. So instead of so much social media, so much news, talk radio, replace it with self-help books, podcasts, audio books, or just things that you want to learn. That's not necessarily self-help, but it might be like a cooking show. That's pretty positive. I mean, who doesn't love cooking or eating? But you also need to feed your brain some self-help tools. And you need to do this repeatedly. So it's not like, okay, yeah, I read that self-help book. No, you probably need to read that self-help book once a year. This is why I like audiobooks, because I can multitask and I can also have someone else's voice in my head repeating positive stuff that I need to accomplish. So replace the negative with the positive. You have to overwhelm your brain with the positive. Now, when you're replacing, whether it's friends or acquaintances that you're hanging out with, and you're like, okay, I'm recognizing that this person is pretty successful over here. What are they doing? They're doing something right. But what you want to make sure is that that person is successful, not just in business. People can have a lot of money. Money is not the be all end all. You need to make sure that that person is successful with relationships. If they have a failed marriage, if they have kids who are brats and don't love them, don't want to be around them, then they're not successful. They're actually a failure, because the relationship part of that person is so much more important than the money part, than the business part. I mean, obviously you want to have somebody you're paying attention to who's successful in business, but if they're not successful with their marriage or their family or their relationships, do not follow them. Do not follow them, or follow them very limited and realize, you know what, I got some good business ideas, but I'm gonna follow this other person too and hang around this other person also even more, because they're pretty happy in their family and their wife loves them, their husband loves them, you know, their kids love them, and they look like they're doing right there. So pay attention to those people who have successful relationships, even more so than successful businesses. All right, so about private practice, this is what I love about the Academy of Private Practice. Myself and the other members of the Academy of Private Practice get to hang out with each other. Once a month we're doing a mastermind. We also do a book club. We have a private Facebook group. And so I get so much positive vibes from these other practice owners who are members of the Academy of Private Practice that I can't help but to improve my game. So if you're interested in starting a private practice or taking your practice to the next level, I'm opening enrollment to the Academy of Private Practice January 10th through the 15th. Small window. And I only open enrollment 3 times a year: January, June, and September. So if you miss out now, you can join us, in June or September or later on. But I will tell you that I usually increase the price a little bit, because as I add more, it becomes more valuable. So go over to startedtherapypractice.com/academy, or if you're just on startedtherapypractice.com, at the very top, you can learn about the Academy. And be sure to subscribe to my podcast. I have all kinds of free tools, free information over there at startedtherapypractice.com. All right, until next time, Godspeed to you and your practice.